Hi. So we're going to be talking about the guitar. I've had a couple people actually ask me to make this video, so it'll be fun to finally make it for somebody. I'll probably do a better version of this video at some point where I actually structure it out, but for right now I'm just going to be kind of spitballing ideas at you. So, guitar. I've been playing guitar now for 10 years, but the way that I'm playing guitar now, I have only been doing for about 3. Really for about, 3. This was fueled by a desire to not kind of play guitar in the more conventional way that had been for a while, like using a pick and kind of more rock guitar. I started to get into tapping a little bit. And I've always been into finger plucking because of a background in really liking folk music, which, obviously a lot of folk music is finger plucking. So, I stopped using a pick 2 years ago. And there were a couple reasons for this. So I was writing newer music that was involving a lot of finger plucking and tapping. And there's still strumming, because strumming is a big part of my style. So I use these 3 things a lot on top of singing. So I wasn't really finding that there was a good way to keep a hold of a pick while playing the way that I play. Some people, do I even have a pick to demonstrate? I think I have one in here. Yeah. So, some people, will hold it kind of in their palm and maybe like curl some fingers over to hold it. Some people can also just get away with kind of holding it like that, So, if you're doing that, so right now it's in my hand. So with this, like I can still tap pretty interesting things, like, but if you notice, I can really only tap with my index finger if I'm doing that. Some people might be able to get, if I tuck my thumb in, I can get both of these guys in there, which is fine. And then, in the moment, switch to a pick. Same kind of thing with finger plucking. There's a lot of people that will hold it in their hand, and then you can kind of employ like what folk artists like to refer to as a claw and hammer sort of technique, where you're basically plucking with these 3 fingers. And that's also fine, because then still, there's the pick. But, so, a common thing between 2 of those is that you're losing these fingers. Which might not matter for some people's style, but for me it mattered, especially for finger plucking. Because I like to use all of my fingers for plucking, and I use more than just these 2 for tapping as well. I don't use my pinky a ton, but I do use my ring finger. A little bit of pinky. So, and I know some people will also kind of do this sort of thing, But I sing, so that wasn't good for me. And the bigger thing that I didn't really know until I started playing this way more often is that by not using a pick and learning these techniques, I was able to start integrating multiple techniques into one part easier than having to fuss around with a pick. So before I get into that, I'll talk about strumming without a pick. I kind of basically use a poor man's flamenco style. So when you first start playing guitar and you're kind of learning chords and strumming them, a lot of times you're kind of doing this sort of thing, like, which is cool. Whatever. I mean, when you first start and then you learn to use a pick, you get this motion. And so this motion with a pick, when you're strumming with a pick, so if you feel it, your hand is kind of doing this thing, sort of weaving in and out. If you're, got a loose wrist, which you should, some people might fall on the elbow, but, kind of loosely. So that motion is still the same with how I strum. You're basically going down with your nails, and I don't have long nails. I have short nails. They're I don't know how well you can see that, but I mean they're trimmed down to regular trim nail length. But when I go down, I'm going down with my nails, and it takes a little bit to get used to aiming with that. But yeah, I'm just hitting with my nails, and so a lot of people can do that. Like when you're strumming a guitar without a pick, you might do this sort of thing, where you're going down and then you sort of come back up like this, and that's fine. But I didn't like the fact that you had the nail sound, which sounds more like a pick, and then coming up with the pad of your finger is like a soft sound. So like, I don't like that. And it gets to be a big problem if you're trying to strum fast too. Like, so, strum down with your nails, and then I strum up with my thumb. And so when you're kind of actually doing the strumming, you sort of have this motion going, where you're going in with your thumbs, roll over, and back up with or in with your finger, roll over, back up with your thumb, like that. And so you kind of got this thing going on. So what I love about this is that you can do a lot of sounds that you can do a lot of sounds like this that you can't do with a pick, like rascaillos, which I use in flamenco. So I mean, you'll hear me if I'm doing like a quick chop, you can do that sort of thing with like. Which is just a lot of cool sounds that you have at your disposal because you don't have a pick weighing you down. As well as the bigger thing for me was that, a lot of my friends that were kind of in the math or music, guitarists specifically, when they would be writing parts, it always kind of seemed like say you had 3 parts, like maybe you have like the verse, the pre-chorus, and the chorus. It always kind of felt like, okay, verse, this is our tapping part. And it might be, it would be a cool tapping part, like. And then you go into the next part, which is maybe like a. Into the big chorus. Which sounds fine, like that can certainly be a song, but I never liked the fact that it seemed like all of your techniques have to be separated, and so not having a pick has allowed my hands the mobility to be able to kind of blend all of those techniques into one thing. So this allows for some really interesting and dynamic playing, in my opinion. Being able to go back and forth. Oak and Oak has a song with a part that's like, and so you have your blend of like strum, single note kind of finger runs. Which with single note stuff, I still end up using the pad of my index and my middle finger. It's a lot like kind of how you would play a bass. But that's also just my style. Like I don't do a lot of like single note kind of things, like I just don't do a lot of stuff like that. I'm usually in a chord or tapping. I'm usually trying to do more than just one note at a time. So yeah, I just like the freedom that it allowed me. Yeah, and so that's mostly it. I think it's interesting that a lot of times we can find creativity in taking things away. I don't use a pick. I used to use a lot more guitar pedals, and now I don't. The only effect I really use is delay. And sometimes forcing those limitations on yourself allows you to think outside the box and come up with more creative things. You might be surprised what you find you end up doing when you're not using a pick. So, key thing, though, is just with strumming, like I said, down with the nails, up with the thumb. That's really the only thing I think I do differently than anybody else. Well, not anybody, but most of my friends. Anyways, cheers.